Section B. Social functions of deviance.
What we've said so far about the behavior of deviance is that it is the violation of norms and expectations. Deviant behavior involves violating norms accepted by either a significant number of people in a community or society, or those with the power to enforce.
Well, is deviance important to sociological understanding of society? Most people think that deviance is just something that is bad. But is it really bad to have people behaving in different ways that conflict with norms and laws?
You know, actually, deviance includes behavior that ranges from dyeing your hair purple to mass murder. So, to understand deviance, we need to look more closely. Just as there are important differences among situations in which norms are appropriate, there are important differences about the relative seriousness of types of norm or law-violating behavior. That said, sociologists have determined that deviance of various types can have positive functions for the society.
Mr. Durkheim was a believer in studying sociology through social groups and the social structure. From his functional view of society, deviance can be said to serve two necessary functions. It defines the boundaries of acceptable behavior, and it promotes integration.
In Durkheim's opinion, deviance has the consequence of promoting social stability. Durkheim's first theory asserts that deviant behavior keeps society stable by defining social boundaries. The line between acceptable behavior and deviance, if crossed by individuals, establishes boundaries. Some people cross these, and the rest of society is made aware of what is acceptable.
So, Mr. Durkheim's theory basically says that deviance has the consequence of keeping society in check.
Durkheim's second point is that deviance promotes integration by causing people who don't violate the norms to feel that they belong to the group or society that supports the norms. It creates a feeling of us against them, those who break the norms.
Section C. Social control.
Before we get too far into our discussion of social controls, we need to make an important point regarding this particular sociological discussion. We've been approaching the concept of deviance and the concept of social control from a functionalist viewpoint, and we have asserted and will continue to assert that to some extent social conformity is necessary for society. But there's a little conundrum here. What part of society are we talking about?
Some groups may follow norms and values even though they do not agree with them, and the norms and values are not in their best interest. This circumstance leads to conflict and inequality, two important subjects we'll be discussing later on in this tape. For now, let's continue down a more functionalist road in order to understand some basic sociological ideas.
Now let's get back on the on-ramp to the highway of social control.
Clearly, social control is an important part of societal stability.
Social controls are organized methods for teaching and enforcing conformity.
There are two different forms of social control, and we're going to explain each. These two social controls are informal and formal social controls. At the heart of informal social controls are relationships with significant others. Remember significant others?
Significant others are defined by Mead as people whose affection and approval are very important.
After you've done something good, significant others will say stuff like,
Good dog, here's a biscuit. Good kid, here's a cookie. Or good account executive, here's a BMW.
So, informal controls are a lot like a pat on the back by people who are considered important.
Formal control is defined by legal sanctions. These sanctions are enforced by institutions such as the police, the courts, and the various local, state, and federal legislatures.
The enforcement of norms is done through the threat of and implementation of rewards or punishments by those who represent an organization or institution, or the whole society. These formal agents of social control act on the basis of rules and laws, most of which are written.
Section D. Theories of deviance.
Well, now that you know something about deviance, you may be wondering why so many people continue to violate norms and laws, regardless of control systems. Thankfully, we've got some pretty great theories to consider to help us think about that. These theories provide different ways of understanding why deviant behavior is ever present in society. Since these theories consider different aspects of deviance, some of the theories may fit together, while others may offer conflicting explanations. Deviance is complicated. The 5 theories we'll look at are conflict theory, functional theory, labeling theory, differential association theory, and Merton's theory of anomie, a concept built upon Durkheim's own theory of anomie.
Conflict theory,
Let's see if we can apply our concept of conflict theory to deviance.
We define the social conflict perspective like this. The organization of society and the changes in society can be explained by the conflicts inherent to many social relations.
Think of the conflict perspective this way. There are countless social groups in society. Remember what social groups are? Social groups are collections of people who interact on the micro level. Each of these social groups has its own interests, and not all groups are going to have similar interests. In fact, the interests of one group may conflict with those of another.